Hey there, welcome back to No Reservations, Kasey Anton's Guide to Restaurant Success. I happen to be Kasey Anton, and this is episode number 12, The Evolution of Dining, Adapting to Changing Consumer Preferences. That's a very fancy way of saying that the more things change, the more some things stay the same. That's confusing, isn't it? So, I was asked for this to be a topic of one of my podcast episodes because the restaurant world has definitely changed. It has significantly changed, of course, since COVID, since March of 2020, with the drastic shutdown. You know everything that happened. So it has changed. And then the fallout has been increased pricing on everything, increased wages, staff impossible to find. If you find them, they don't want to work, they don't show up, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, it's evolved. The restaurant industry has evolved, whether they like it or not. It's evolving. And how do you evolve with it? How do you adapt to it? How can you change with it in a positive way? And there is obviously no one right answer to that question because it depends so much on where you are and what your concept is, and even more importantly, who your guests are and what are they looking for. I mean, at the end of the day, it's always going to come back to your general audience, your ideal audience, let's hope, and what it is they come to you for and capitalizing on that. So I just wanted to start off there with the broad stroke of that, of going back to who are your guests, and if you had to create that avatar, if you will, of your perfect ideal guest, if you can put that person or persons in your head, what is it they would say that they come to you for or would like to see more of? And then, of course, you do more of that. But to get to some specific examples of what people are doing when it comes to evolving, I would say probably the biggest thing right now is the mocktail menu. It's about time, because I have to say I have been looking for a mocktail menu for years and years and years. It's just something that I've always liked. I'm not a huge alcohol drinker. I like it every once in a while, but I'd also like really just to hold a martini glass that has something else more fun in it and fruity and pretty. And but you can't really do that unless you're ordering alcohol, right? So I kind of felt like I was not part of that club. So I don't understand why more restaurants didn't do it years ago when I was really looking for it, and it was very hard to find. Now it's so much easier. As a matter of fact, it's probably hard to find, at least here in the New England area, a place that does not have a zero proof or a mocktail menu with at least a couple of items on it. And the more the merrier. And I love that, not because I'm all about being, a dry human being or whatever. Care less about that. Make your own choices. I love the profit margins on these mocktails. I'd say that's number one, because profit is first, of course, right? And it is first, and that is not coming from a place of greed or anything like that. It's simply because if you want your business to survive, let alone thrive, you absolutely need to have profit. So I love the profit margin on them, but equal to that, I love the fact that there are more and more people like me, especially this younger generation coming up. And I have two teenagers, and one is an 18-year-old boy. And I just happen to be one of those households where a lot of them like to come and congregate and hang out. And a lot of them are very chit chatty with me. Not to mention, I've taught in the high school and will be teaching at a university soon. So I'm pretty fairly well versed in older teenagers and what's important to them. And while I'm not going to say they don't love to go out and down a couple of beers and have a party like we all did, I would assume. Like, I know I certainly did when I was in high school as a teenager. I'm not going to say that doesn't happen, but it is not the be all to end all for most of these kids, or at least the big friend group that I have been around for the last couple of years. As a matter of fact, they could almost care less about that. And most nights of the week, they'd rather not feel like crap and not have to drink alcohol, but if they're going to take that with them into their adult life, there is your entire audience for zero proof cocktails during the week. And let's face it, let's hope that you're not struggling for business on the weekends. And if you're going out to dinner, lunch, whatnot on the weekends, chances are you're probably going to have a drink or two. I know I am, because it's the weekend. I don't have to worry about, the hangover or a headache or getting up early, etc. So that's already signed, sealed, delivered. Let's not talk about that. I do like to go out every once in a while during the week, on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, or maybe for lunch with some of my staff. I like to do my lunch with Lucy's. I call each person Lucy, just my daughter's name. I take one staff member out for lunch. And it would still be nice to not have to be like, oh, I'll have a club soda, please. I mean, I can do that, but honestly, I'd rather order a fun drink in a fun glass and have that and have them do it. And it just, there's something about a martini glass or a margarita glass or any type of liquor oriented glass with something fun looking in it. There's just something about it. It creates a different aura, a different chemistry around what you're doing, and it doesn't have to include the alcohol. So I love that, because now I feel like I'm part of a club. I'm part of that club that likes to drink martinis, and I never liked a martini, but I always wanted to drink it out of the glass. So mocktails, zero proof cocktails. We're just scratching the surface. There is so much you can do depending on your concept, from topping them with cotton candy to crazy, gummy worms and all that stuff. I mean, there is just, the sky is the limit. The price is almost the limit, because if you make it eye-catching enough, people won't even balk at the price, because they want to have that at their table. So that's number one. Now, along those same lines, I just got off a call with a great couple that'll be opening up a cocktail bar in the Midwest in the next year, it looks like. A craft cocktail lounge. Very exciting, very into this. Is a well-known bartender out of Vegas, opening up his own place in the Midwest. And they're going to have some great, old fashions and craft cocktails with all of like the best fruits and all that great stuff. But they are also already planning and creating their mocktail menu, which we talked about. And I was in love with that already. But in addition to that, because he believes, as the young ones younger than me do, in sustainability, which is also very important concept coming up with the younger generation, is and I was so afraid at this point in the conversation he was going to tell me paper straws, and I just cannot stand those paper straws. I don't think I've ever heard one person say they enjoyed a paper straw, but he didn't. Thank the Lord, he didn't. He had this great idea to offer metal straws, and just for $1 upcharge, and they would own them. So not to reuse them, like, oh, if you'd like a straw, we have these metal straws. It's just an extra $1 on top there, and then you can have it for the whole night. That to me is genius, especially now if we're going to do metal straws or something like that. Maybe even get your logo on the side of them, or make them a different color that's part of your brand, or make them striped. I don't know. I feel like that's a whole other market where you could, brand your straw in your way, and the upcharge won't even be a thing. People will be like, yeah, give me that pink and white striped straw. That looks amazing. That's a fun thing. So I love that was his idea, and they are going to be doing that. So I just think that is another great way to adapt to the changing consumer preferences, which is sustainability is important to them. And even if they say that they want a paper straw, they don't. Nobody wants those things to like literally melt in their mouth. So there's that. And then another way to kind of adapt with the changing consumer preferences is also in the way we communicate with our guests. And I would say that is going to start at the very bottom and part of your hiring gauntlet. You're in your more, not even just the hiring, we'll start there, but in your training gauntlet, and going back to the basics. And that's what I meant when I started this podcast, and I said the more things change, the more they stay the same. Because when I think back to where I first fell in love with this industry, and then I really started coming up into my adult life, and getting my training done at places like the Steak Loft in Mystic, Connecticut, which I just think is just a machine of a great place. But then moving on to the corporate world in the Chart House, and how they trained us to be completely guest focused in so many different ways. I feel like that has gone the way of the dodo bird, as I said. And if we can bring that back, almost the Jerry Maguire of less is more, less customers, more love. And I'm not saying I want you to have less customers. That was a Jerry Maguire thing. But I'm saying to maybe you have less customers per staff. So maybe you add on more servers so they're taking care of less people so they can really have that eye contact, have that empathy, listen for what these customers, these guests want, and delivering to them an amazing experience, which is something that we used to do years ago. And it was just core to our values at the Chart House. And I think it's why the Chart House was so successful for so long. And then I just almost never see that anymore. That level of service that is just very real. It's just genuine. It is 100% guest focused, and it's an absolute win-win-win. But it does take some training. It does take staff training, hospitality training, and some time and care. But it will pay off. So those are kind of my 3 overall tips to keep this nice and short. Again, this is about the evolution of dining, adapting to changing consumer preferences, which, to recap, I feel like is about the mocktail movement, sustainability, wherever you can kind of find that without sacrificing the guest experience, and then getting back to basics with genuine hospitality, with caring, with eye contact. Because if you can do it with your guests, you can do that with your employees, and that just creates your culture. And that will beget just so much more, not only, personally for you, but for your guests as well. So that's my takeaway today. Thank you so much for watching/listening. And as always, please, please, please like, share, do whatever it is that you do with podcasts that you like. That would make a huge difference to me. And reach out to us if you want to be on one of these episodes. If you have something to say, if you want to hear about a topic, we want to know what you're looking for. Please reach out to us on Instagram at sparkbusinessconsulting.com, on Facebook, on our website. You know where to find us. Thanks again.